maybe not quite
so.
as much as it looked
Looks
like.
like
when
it'd be
was
crossing crossing I-55 at 310, but maybe a little bit. It's all. I mean, we'd have to look at another scan to be kind of.
Yeah, it may or may not be trying to turn just a little more east, but at this point, still likely a tornado, strong tornado on the ground. And there's some times there. I was hoping to get Holly Springs. I'm going to go wider so we can get that. We're going to disengage from this and talk about one of the other tornadoes that's getting a little bit closer, or potential tornadoes. This is definitely a tornado confirmed, and so that's why we're spending a little bit more time on it. So let's go northeast.
And also, last I checked, it was now 65, moving at 65 miles per hour.
65, okay. And that's what we have it as. So Holly Springs,
Okay.
we're now at 29 minutes. Holly Springs, 29 minutes before this tornado confirmed on the ground. Well, new update. Let's advance it. Okay. Verify that. 26 minutes, Holly Springs. As you can see, Glenville, 5 minutes. Aiken, we're talking about 9 minutes. Tornado confirmed at this moment to be on the ground, and confirmation of damage having occurred from this thunderstorm. So significant in that regard. So we're watching it very, very closely and continue. Just the reports continue to come in. So let's disengage from that for a moment, because we need to talk about some of these other circulations. In particular, I'm watching that one there north and west of Charleston, and the one west of Charleston, because those two are going to take a more direct track at Lafayette County probably first. So I'm going to get my angle on this right to make sure we get the track. Okay, so that one would probably get to Oxford. Okay, so now let's go current. Let's go 65. Let's go northeast. Let's go times. So this is not tornado warned for Lafayette County, the central part of Lafayette County, but if this holds together, if it maintains itself, that could become an issue. We're talking Batesville, again, close to you, within the next 18 minutes or so. Taylor, 33 minutes. Oxford at just under 40 minutes, and Abbeville just more than 40 minutes. That for the middle rotation. The southernmost rotation in this line, also tornado warned. You're going to have a lot of the same locations. Instead, though, this time I'm going to have it far enough south that we'll say if it takes an easterly track, though it's not heading right toward Water Valley, it's heading a little more north. There's a second one on the way, about 50 minutes. So we're going to have to watch this. We have a lot of storms. We're still trying to figure out which of these is going to be preferential and grow strongest and longest. But Water Valley, about 40 minutes if that one were to hold together. Current time is 4:02 p.m. Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside meteorologist John DeLusick, as well as Joel Young and members of the North Mississippi Storm Chasers and Spotters who have been invaluable on their reports so far today, and we're just getting started. Most of us, we're still waiting to begin, but this is a tornado situation where we have had tornado touchdowns, what we believe to be long track tornadoes. We talked about that a little last night and earlier today. These long track tornadoes, when they're on the ground for extended periods of time, have a tendency to cause the most damage and potentially the most loss of life, which is why we take them extremely seriously. So we have to be very, very careful. So let's look back to the west. Obviously, as we mentioned, tornado watches do continue for much of the viewing area. It is this line that is now strengthening and extends all the way back to north of Greenville. Along this line, more of these thunderstorms are going to strengthen. This northern one is definitely the dominant supercell. We don't know which of these two is going to become dominant. Neither one probably producing a tornado at the ground level at this moment, but both rotating vigorously and both trying to do that. And then another one back on the end. And we always worry about the farthest south and west. Typically, if it's out by itself, sometimes it can strengthen more, grow larger, has an environment to adapt to all on its own. So we're going to have to be very careful about watching that. Still some time on these thunderstorms as they continue to mature, but the northern one is that kind of worst case scenario, a violent, long track tornado that has a history of producing damage and continues to track toward the north and east with a speed at about 65 miles per hour. Now I could say this for Techville, I want you in your safe place. It's probable that this is going to stay just a little to your north and west. Nonetheless, if you live in Techville, you live on the north side of Sardis Lake in Lafayette County, I want to keep you in your safe place. If you live in Oxford proper, you're fine now, but we have storms back to the west we're going to have to watch. The rotation on this, as we look at the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, continues to be substantial. Still waiting on a new update there, but that one, 101 miles per hour, strong at this moment. Still likely a tornado on the ground that we have to continue to monitor here as it moves toward the north and west. So nonetheless, let's remind folks once again where we need to go, because this is kind of a preparation for if you're watching us at home and you're not in one of these warnings now, you need to already identify where you're going to go. If you're living in a mobile home and you're in this PDS tornado watch, I'll touch on that just a little bit here in a second, but if you're in this PDS tornado watch, you need to assume that these long track tornadoes could happen again. And it might not be this thunderstorm, it might be in one of those other ones downstream that happens. And so I want to make sure that you identify a safe place now that you can get to, whether it's another building, whether it's a grandparent's house. You can do that now so that you have time, so that when the warning's issued, you go. You're 3 or 4 steps away. Not when the warning's issued, you drive across town. That's how people get injured and killed. Easiest place for people to get injured and killed in a tornado, if they're outside obviously, in a car or a mobile home. Most tornado deaths occur in those 3 situations. So sturdy structure, lowest floor, middle, as many walls between you and the outside as possible, and that'll definitely make a difference. Okay? So let's talk about the tornado watches, as we mentioned just a moment ago. And there are 2 tornado watches in effect. Both are in effect until 8 p.m. tonight. The northern and western part, and I'll have to draw a line on here to kind of cut off where we're dealing with the different watches here. But all these locations, north and west, this watch is what is referred to as a PDS tornado watch, particularly dangerous situation. Not an acronym that's thrown out by the Storm Prediction Center easily. It's a situation where these long track damaging and possibly deadly tornadoes form. The southern part of this, that's not to diminish the tornado potential here, it still exists. But it's less likely that you're going to get a tornado that sets down and stays down for an hour plus. And that's what we're dealing with the storm that moved through just south of Clarksdale and now is still on the ground approaching Sardis Lake area. That's a tornado that is a long track, been on the ground for an hour plus now, causing damage tornado. That's kind of the worst case scenario that we talk about with this. So identifying that a little closer, once again, let's talk about it. 4:45 tornado warning time for this, 4:06 current time, and it's likely that sections of Lafayette County will be canceled out of this before the conclusion, 4:45, probably in the next 15-20 minutes as this lifts northward. Weather Service will start clipping off the southern side of this, but that is a substantial rotating thunderstorm and likely still a substantial tornado on the ground. In fact, I'm going to double check with John and Joel here for a second. Do we have any new reports coming in on that tornado northwest of Sardis Lake?
I'm actually just now getting my computer back up. I had some computer troubles here, but let's see.
Of course. Okay. We haven't, John, same thing? Okay.
I'd like Dave Bauer to.
Okay, so no other reports on this so far. Since the last time we got this flurry of activity on this, no other reports so far of tornado on the ground. We assume it still is, but no other reports of damage. Is that correct?
The last report from National Weather Service was from tornado warning that was at 3:56.
Okay, but we haven't had spotters confirm.
Nothing.
Okay,
recent.
well that's good. We're also getting into an area that's more rural. You were back around 55. A lot of people travel. Less people traveling out here in some of the back roads south and west of the Aiken community there. So still substantial rotation on this thunderstorm. Let's track it with its latest location now toward the north and east. The speed still 65 miles per hour. I'm going to keep Techville out of the track of this. I'm going to continue to include Holly Springs. We're talking 20 minutes or less now for Holly Springs with this setup here. New information also coming in related to some of the storm damage from our partners at the Weather Service. Damage report 1 to 3 miles north of 3000 U.S. Highway 49. Report of damage to crop dusting equipment, including damage to their planes. I think that's the one we talked about a little earlier. And then Sardis Fire Department reporting several homes with major damage north of Sardis. Let's go ahead and check in with Joel Young on that. Joel?
Yeah, so I'm just reading here now. A severe thunderstorm producing a tornado. This is going to be in Tallahatchie County, a different cell. Looking back toward the south and west, this will be heading up, it says, near Vance, 11 miles west of Charleston, moving northeast at 55 miles per hour.
Okay.
Strong indications of a tornado on the ground near Brazil.
Okay.
So that's going to be just east of Webb.
Okay.
I know it's a different storm, but
okay, that's fine. Yeah, let's go ahead and let's go down and check on that. So obviously, as we mentioned, continuing on this thunderstorm to have tornado damage occur. Let's go south on this. So now work with me here. That'd be the one near Brazil. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that would be that one probably there along the Quitman Tallahatchie County line. That would probably put it near Crowder or just south of Crowder. Crowder's where Panola, Quitman, and Tallahatchie counties meet.
Gotcha. So it's the northern of the two circulations.
I would say so. Yeah,
okay.
Right there.
There's, by the way, our new tornado warning. They will issue a tornado warning that includes Oxford proper within probably the next 5 to 10 minutes. In all likelihood, they're going to extend this all the way probably into Lafayette County. I'd be shocked if they didn't. So let's go ahead and track it as such. tracking that rotation on the leading of those thunderstorms, still at about the 65 miles per hour it's moving, and the time frame now as it continues to tick down. For folks who do live in Lafayette County, we're now talking just under 30 minutes for Oxford, assuming that 65 mile per hour motion. This is not confirmed on the ground. This is strong rotation continuing to intensify. And as we talked about a few minutes ago, we're just waiting at this moment to see, as this continues to develop, which of these rotations strengthens. And frankly, it's the back one of those two that looks a little stronger from this radar site. Let's analyze it. Let's probe it from a few other locations here. Let's look out of Memphis. That southern one looks to be the stronger with gate-to-gate shear 120 miles per hour. The leading one looks a little bit weaker. Let's check the shear on that, not to diminish it too much, but that leading one's less impressive. It's that trailing storm, Joel, I think, that probably is the more substantial one that we're looking at here. The one that's just to the west of Charleston there, much more substantial with 120 mile per hour winds. I'm going to track that one as opposed to the leading one. The leading one, we gave you some earlier times here. I'm going to track this one because this one could be our second one that really strengthens, tries to set down a substantial tornado if it continues to strengthen like this. We're talking Water Valley, 30 minutes. He might pass a little north of you, but we wanted to make sure we included you. And this one is 42 minutes for Oxford. This is the second one. There's going to be two rotations. They're kind of independent at this moment. One of them is going to become dominant, and I'm thinking it might be the second one, the one that's farther south and west. Let's go back to the precip mode, the how much it's raining mode on Storm Track Doppler radar as we continue to track these thunderstorms. Definitely looks as though the southern of these is becoming the more dominant of those rotations, and then we're going to have to watch this one near Glendora. The winds aloft are structured to have a lot of rotation on these thunderstorms, and unlike what typically happens in December, we have a lot of what we refer to as instability, and that instability is substantial on this and the potential that this could produce tornadoes. Now, the southwestern one of these, new update from the National Weather Service in just the last couple of moments, upgrading the wording. Tornado observed, tornado damage threat considerable on this storm right there. So let's zoom in a little closer. That's the one we were looking at, that strong rotation, the one becoming more dominant a couple of minutes ago. Definitely continuing to strengthen. Out of the radar site that is down in Monroe County, so we're looking at a considerable distance away. 59 miles per hour, not as impressive. Looking from Memphis, where we're a lot closer, the gate-to-gate shear, 120. So taking into account that and the likelihood that now we're confirming this is a tornado, we definitely have to be very cautious. Weather Service going 55 miles per hour on this. I'm going to keep it about 60. And we're going to track this again as we look back toward the north and east. And the track on this thunderstorm taking it through the Taylor community as well as Oxford. So the big concern I have, not just with this, this is strengthening. This will be a new tornado warning within the next few minutes here. My big concern is that we now end up with another dominant, and maybe one or two, maybe three other dominant storms that now hit more of the heart of our viewing area. Not that we're not concerned about this, and we definitely are. In fact, we now have information starting to come in, some reports, I believe, from the scene of this long track tornado as it tracked through Clarksdale and to the north and west. This thunderstorm here that continues to track toward Holly Springs. We go to, and you'll have to help me out here, Steve. Who are we going to on this?
Nathan Duff.
Nathan Duff. Nathan, can you hear me? Nathan, are you there? Oh, we do not have it? Okay. Well, we'll get with Nathan here in just a moment when we get that up. But that perspective will help us in understanding how these storms are going to evolve here, what he saw, and the reality is we don't want you storm tracking. Now, remember a moment ago when I said I'd be surprised if X, I'd be surprised if they didn't include Lafayette County. They didn't include Lafayette County on that. So first prediction wrong today. Right there, though, that two areas of circulation, what they're tracking toward the north and east. Speed, I'm keeping it somewhere still in the neighborhood of 55 to 60 miles per hour. I'll slow it down a little bit. And now tornado warning extends up to the Lafayette County line. Oxford, we're thinking 31 minutes for you. The Yakima area, we're looking at about 35 minutes. And so very, very substantial and potential that this rotation could continue to strengthen. It's really the southwest one that I'm most concerned with at this point, and Oxford, that time for you is closer to about 40 minutes or so. So definitely a substantial situation, severe weather threat continuing to evolve on what's probably going to end up being a fairly long afternoon and evening. We go to our meteorologist, Joel Young, for a little more information. Joel?
Okay, so we're getting this report. This is 2 homes apparently gone on Goodwin Road and 1 on Alex Gate Road. That would be Quitman County. That's 1 injury reported via the Marks Volunteer Fire Department. So that would be the storm that's actually now up in Marshall County now, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, probably. I assume if the crews have gotten to the scene like that, that's probably this Marshall County thunderstorm, which has been one of the more substantial ones that we have had, still prompting a tornado warning, now increasingly getting closer and closer to Holly Springs. Thank you for that report there. Any more information coming in on that thunderstorm? Joel, I think.
Let's see. At least 15 homes severely damaged or destroyed just south of Clarksdale. Time is radar estimate. Okay, so that's going to be the same one. That would be out there by the airport that was affected I talked about earlier.
Okay, I think we're trying to get someone on the scene there, near that substantial damage on the phone that we'll hopefully talk to you in a minute. Thank you, Joel, for that information. So this is still a substantial thunderstorm, substantial tornado considered at this moment to be on the ground. All these little spins, you see that back there, previous runs, previous scans coming in, the radar analyzing, saying, I see strong rotation. It definitely is still tracking in the direction of Holly Springs. So now with the latest time update here, for folks and the viewers that know folks in Holly Springs, as you can see, Mariana, 5 minutes for you, 13 minutes for Holly Springs, Higdon, 16 minutes. And this, not a lot of times I'll sit here and say, call somebody, but call a friend if they live up in Holly Springs. Make sure they know about this. Make sure that they're taking cover, because this is a substantial tornado on the ground right now, moving toward the north and east with a speed at about 60 to 65 miles per hour, and has had a history of producing substantial damage, has been, at least in one form or another, on the ground for more than an hour, approaching an hour and a half. So this is substantial. And just to, I guess, highlight this a little more closely, we go to, and give me the name one more time, Steve. Nathan Duff. I want to get your name right. I'm bad with names. Nathan, you're in very near the Clarksdale area with Clarksdale Press Register. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's some rain and hail just starting to fall again here in patches, but I'm at the scene of the agricultural airstrip that was hit, and it was completely destroyed. It's several planes wadded up and tossed across the field. The damage, from what I'm being told, extends into another community just to the north of here called Bellevue, where apparently several homes were damaged. I hadn't made it out there yet, but Shannon Agricultural Flying Services been completely demolished, and we've heard reports of several homes. No injuries. There was one employee of the flying service who lives in a trailer on the property that was taken to the hospital, but he's already back. He's okay.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, so far no reports of injuries, but heavy damage.
That's fantastic to hear that there's no reports of injuries, because when you see some of the pictures of this and some of the damage, I mean, I assume you've seen tornado, you've run across tornado damage before. Can you compare? Is it just absolute devastation? Is it just everything is damaged? Is it?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, steel buildings that aren't going to hold up to anything like that very strong. One of them was completely flattened, and there's debris scattered for, a good couple of miles around the location. It looks like they had one plane kind of come through it slightly, just barely damaged. The main office of the facility is off to one side of the field, and it suffered heavy damage, but it wasn't knocked down. The hangar building and where they store the chemicals was completely crushed, though.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Now, have there been any reports of chemical leaks from this? You mentioned that's where they store the chemicals. Have they got that contained?
Well, I know that there are some. There's some people from the local chemical retailers that are out here assessing the scene. I haven't seen any hazmat containment crews out here, and at this time of year, you're not really dealing with a whole lot of chemicals being stored, but I mean there were some on site, and you can smell them in the air.
Okay, well, obviously we want to keep some folks away from that. I appreciate you taking a moment to talk to us, and I'm glad to hear everyone so far. Well, hopefully we can keep it in that situation where everyone's in good shape and not injured, and be safe from these storms. So there's still that next one coming up kind of close to you. It's a little rain, but it's not nearly as substantial as the ones you had earlier on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, have a good night.
You too.
Thank you so much for joining us. That report coming from the Clarksdale Press Register just a little bit ago near the airport where substantial damage occurred earlier. Now, latest discussion with the Weather Service. A phrase that doesn't come across often, but is substantial every time it does. Catastrophic, to describe the kind of damage potentially going to occur with this storm approaching Holly Springs from the south and west. Catastrophic, a large confirmed tornado on the ground at this moment, moving toward the Holly Springs area with a speed of about 60 to 65 miles per hour. And with the time here, now we're talking for Holly Springs proper at about 9 minutes. 9 minutes until it makes it into Holly Springs proper. A tornado confirmed on the ground, large, producing catastrophic damage. The winds incredibly strong on this, as they have been, and this was the concern that we would have maybe one or two of these long track tornadoes. This one incredibly violent, 162 mile per hour wind change, pixel to pixel change in wind, substantial. So even though this is fringe viewing area, we're going to talk about this for a moment, because if you live out here or you know somebody that lives out here in rural sections of Marshall County, this is incredibly substantial. This is going to stay north of Lafayette County, okay? Lafayette County, from this storm, you're good. There's another one back to the west we'll touch on in a moment, okay? So the Galena area, obviously, right now, we're talking a matter of moments, maybe a minute or two at most. We're talking 3 miles away. At 65 miles per hour, it moves a mile a minute. Only 11 miles away from Holly Springs, so we're talking maybe 9 minutes. The Clifton area, maybe 8 minutes or so. The Mac area, if it holds together that far north, maybe about the next 12 minutes. Hudsonville, we're talking maybe the next 15 to 17 minutes or so. But a substantial tornado believed to be on the ground, producing considerable damage, destructive in the neighborhood about 6 miles, west of Waldocksi State Park, moving northeast at about 55 miles per hour. This could be bad, bad, bad. So let's talk for a moment about specifically Holly Springs. And let's look at the angle of this. This is going to be really close. If you know somebody, and we've talked a lot about this the last few days, about not traveling today. If you know somebody that's a brave person, and they decide to travel between, say, New Albany and Memphis, or they're going to be on this stretch of I-22, call ahead. This is going to hit some of those trees. It's going to have debris if it holds together, and it could be substantial and it could kill somebody. So we have got to be calling ahead and prepared for this the way it is now. Let's go ahead and go to John and Joel. I believe we have some information.
Actually,
yes.
We're trying to get the MDOT traffic cams from Holly Springs loaded.
Okay. When you get that loaded, let me know. I'm actually going to have to change the way I show it over here.
Tell me exactly, well, let's see. That would be, where would that cross I-22? Where do you believe?
Just south of Holly Springs.
Just south of Holly Springs. So we're going to load. There aren't any cams. I'm going to get the closest camera to Holly Springs. This is going to be looking east, and it's a lot of rain.
Okay.
But I've got that full screen on the director computer.
There we go. Yeah, and this is the problem. This is the problem. You see this? You see this? This is why, no matter where you're at, don't go out and try to spot this. This is either a lot of rain, or the question I have is this fog. It's hard to tell if this. That might be. I don't see a lot of rain.
You want me to pull up another one?
Yeah, let's see
if we can look at it from a different perspective. Those are down. All right, here we go. Here's another one. That could, or heavy rain.
No, that's heavy rain. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, just wanted to double check on that. Regardless, you're not going to see this coming. So Holly Springs, we're past time to make action happen. Make it happen now. This is a substantial, damaging tornado that's caused numerous buildings to be somewhere between damaged and completely destroyed in its past, and it's as strong as it has been right now. You need to be executing your tornado safety plan. You need to be going someplace incredibly safe if you can at this moment. Let's go to the closest radar. Let's continue to track this. This is substantial, damaging tornado up here approaching Holly Springs area right now. We're going to be there in minutes, and that right there, that is tornado debris detected on Storm Track Doppler radar. Now, debris happens after the thunderstorm has hit something, so this is just a confirmation tool. It's not predictive. But what is predictive? This is coming right toward Holly Springs, and it's doing it right now. Okay. So a very substantial tornado on the ground, likely causing some significant damage here for locations approaching Holly Springs right now. Let's go ahead and go back southwest. Let's touch on these tornado warning thunderstorms here, back approaching the Pope area and Batesville. Tornado warning not yet issued for Lafayette County, but the reality is that it could be issued very soon on this rotation. Let's go to the wind mode and storm track Doppler radar. We're going to look from a couple different sites here because we're a little higher up. Still the southwest of those, near the intersection there of 35 north of Charleston there. Let's get my other highway if I can get that to pop up. So that's 35 and that's 322. So near the intersection of 35 and 322, that's my more substantial rotation. There's another one approaching the Batesville area at this moment, moving toward the north and east. So both of these rotations, about 50, 55 miles per hour, continuing to produce strong winds and perhaps even attempt to produce a tornado. So Oxford, we'll be talking 27 minutes for you, assuming still that now we've slowed it down to about 55. I want to take it still 60 miles per hour. Sometimes these speed up just a little bit just to do our due diligence there. There we go, about closer to 25 minutes for the first one. And then for the second tornado, we're talking in the neighborhood of about 34 minutes for the rotation. In either case, at this point, we have to be very cautious. When you have the long track kind of tornado like we have up there north, we got to be very careful. Which storm are you looking at, Joel, here?
This is the one down there right along the Tallahatchie-Panola County line. That's
Okay.
a confirmed large and extremely dangerous, located near Pope or 7 miles west of George Payne State Park. So that'll be near Pope, along the Pope-Crowder Road probably. That's going to be between the Valley Road. A lot of people refer to it as the Valley Road. But that would put it near Pope. It'll put it crossing I-55 near the Pope-Cortland exit. And so yeah, that would put it near there, and that would also, if it continued on the same track, there isn't a warning out for the city of Oxford just yet, but that same storm would stay on that track. So like I said, this was observed